It's the 2025 A-Level H2 Math paper, the easiest ever. In today's video, we are going to try the 2025 A-Level H2 Math paper 2 under time condition as a tutor. We'll be waking up early in the morning to take the paper at 8 o'clock as if I'm a real JC2 A-Level candidate. That means 3 hours of sitting down in a classroom trying the paper under time condition with no distractions, no help, as if I'm taking the actual A-levels. And for the new viewers, you might want to watch part 1 where I attempted the 2025 H2 Math paper 1 under time condition. And oh boy, that itself was an adventure.
Can't believe I'm doing this, but just look at the rain. Look at that.
And yes, we already know about the concerns that your seniors had with the 2025 A-Level paper. Many thought paper 1 was too easy, but then we haven't done paper 2. In fact, I found some of the most immediate concern after paper 1. This redditor went to ask, is it possible to hit 85 to 90 for paper 2 H2 Math? Because he felt so demoralized that the paper 1 was so easy, but his mind just messed up so bad and he left some questions blank. After calculating, he thinks he will only hit 62 to 65, but he really needed that A. Don't we all? So he asked, have any seniors done particularly well? Because he felt that the bell curve is going to go to at least 75 to 80. So even if he got 80 to 85 for paper 2, it might not be an A overall. So he thinks, to get an A overall, he needs at least 80 to 85. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it really depends on you. And another concern immediately after paper 1 was, could paper 2 be a killer? Like this redditor, no masterpiece 5649 said, LFL, I don't know what that means. Paper 2 gonna set paper. Don't know if we'll go above the difficulty of past year's crap though. I don't think that's a fair comment because it's an assumption that just because paper 1 is difficult, paper 2 is going to be incredibly hard in order to balance it. We have seen many past year papers in your A-levels or O-levels where both are equally hard or both are equally simple. It's really a roll of the dice. But that will be something that we'll find out by the end of this video. Yes! And indeed, paper 2 did not disappoint, at least according to your seniors. Like Furry Koala said, I did guess and check for question 1B. I think I know what this question is. This was one of the most talked about questions. Most students resorted to using logic, but they were concerned whether it was correct. And another question that was in the heat of discussion, question 4. I believe that was application of differentiation, but you'll see why later on in the challenge. But according to him, the general consensus is, other than that, the rest were generally okay except for some parts here and there. And then there's this comment by You Good Too. God sent me a revelation at 10:50 AM to remind me of implicit differentiation exists. I swear I was figuring out how to integrate y respect to x. I think he meant to integrate a derivative that came from implicit differentiation, and therefore, he is actually talking about variable separable. Just by looking at all this, I think this would be an interesting challenge. I think I will quite enjoy this paper. Like really, what could go wrong? Can't believe this is happening to me. Quite a lot of painful mistakes. And then of course, the biggest concern of them all, like key battle 5633. Bell curve gonna be ridiculously high. Paper was fine, but I couldn't really do question 6 and 7 and some parts. Usually question 6 and 7 is the stats, and usually the first few questions of stats, PNC and probability. I don't think that will be the biggest of issue, and if you're worried about that, truth be told, I think you shouldn't be worried about the bell curve, because if you did get a B, you probably deserved it. So today, we are going on a mission. We are going to take the 2025 A-Level H2 Math paper 2, and it's in less than 24 hours. Not again! Yes, precisely, because we want a wholesome picture of what happened last year for the H2 Math students. If you haven't seen the video of me doing the 2025 A-Level H2 Math paper 1, you should probably watch it first. You will see the score that I actually achieved. And today, we are going to find out, when you put paper 2 and paper 1 together, do I still get the same respectable score? Or would I just be an embarrassing tutor? But unlike last time, today, we don't have a problem. I have my 10-year series ready, I already bought it from Popular the last time, and this time, I think I am more than mentally prepared to take on the challenge even though it's in less than 24 hours. Yes! I will still be waking up early in the morning to attend the paper at 8 o'clock. I will have to sit down, try the paper as if I'm a student taking the actual A-level paper under exam conditions. And by the end of the paper, I will give you my immediate feedback before going home and then marking the paper and then giving you my overall thoughts on the paper 2 and then the two papers together as a whole, so that you know exactly what is useful for your A-level preparation later this year. What?
This
I foresee it to be a lot easier than the last time. Much more prepared, less problems to deal with, and all I have to do is just to wake up early and then attempt the paper. How hard can it be? I have classes coming up, so I have to get ready to go out to my center, and I'll see you tomorrow. So my class just ended. I got some things to clean up before I go back. So as you can see, the time now, 9:05. So I'll have to stay back and clean up a bit. And in the meantime of staying back, don't forget, the most important part in your H2 Math Paper 2 is your GC. So right now, as you can see, I'm trying to charge my GC to make sure that I have full battery and nothing is going to go wrong for my H2 Math Paper 2. I'll see you tomorrow. Alright, morning. Time now. 15 May, 6:53. I think I overslept a bit, but don't think it matters. The exam's gonna start at 8 o'clock. As always, gonna do my workout first, then we'll see what happens after that. Didn't have the best night of sleep, but I think I'll do fine for the test later. Or rather the exam. So, see you in a while. Can't believe this is happening to me. Don't forget, the most important part in your H2 Math Paper 2 is your GC. Dumbest mistake ever. Every single time I make a major video, this happens. Yeah, raining, but at least there's no thunder or lightning. So if you haven't realized what's the problem by now, is that I left my GC on my tuition center's table. So I have no choice but to rush out to go to my tuition center to take my exam. This exam is more realistic than you believe it would be. I'm running late and the time now, 7:51. Definitely going to be late. I'm going to have to rush over and run, but never forget the B-rolls. Let's go. Where is it? Yeah, it's right here. Well, no time to waste. Time now. 8:20. Set up camera, set up my table, get my paper, get my M27, and we'll have to get started. You ready? Let's go! Okay, a quick time check. It's about 9:30. I finished more than half the paper. I left with like 3 more stats questions, 8, 9, 10, hypothesis testing and all that. I don't think I'll take too long. I don't think I'll take a full 1.5 hours. But there are some parts of this paper that I'm going to talk about extensively when this is done. Again, 9:30, just went to the toilet. Let's continue. Time check. And I'm almost done with the paper. I think I have some blanks here and there that I need to fill back in. probably something to do with probability and rearrange some of my answers to make them more presentable. I think I'll probably finish in the next half an hour. I'll probably take my time to check through everything. Yeah, so wait for my comments shortly after the paper. See you in a while. Alright, time check. 10:49, 15 May. So it's on the same morning. Well, you wouldn't believe all the rubbish I went through this morning. I mean, I got here at least before the heavy rain, and I just finished the paper. I think it's better if we move to somewhere else, have a better view. So let's move. Okay, once again, time check. 15 May, 10:51. Same morning, still raining, just finished the paper. I decided not to use the last 10 minutes because I was just quite sick of the paper already. My immediate thoughts after the paper. Well, number one, I think I'm quite rusty with my stats because now it's starting to become the period where I teach stats, but from last year, November till now, I haven't taught any stats. And to be frank with you, a lot of the stats questions in terms of hypothesis testing, sampling, normal distribution, I just use what I know as a practitioner, as a scientist. In fact, I check my p-value using the actual normal distribution. So for students from RI, you will know what I'm talking about, where you don't actually use a z-test, you just take it as a normal distribution and then you use the assumption that the mean remains unchanged. Then from there, you derive a probability, you compare it to your significance level. And that's perfectly fine if you're from RI or if you're a practitioner like me from the background of doing science. But then there were other parts of the questions where you had to do explanation of stats, which is talking about the correlation, how do you explain it's reliable or not, context of assumptions and whatnot. A lot of those, I know in school you have learned a template to answer them, but for me personally, I'm a bit rusty, so I just use my practitioner knowledge. And if my answer deviates from what you would expect, give me a bit of leeway, or if you think I'm just terrible at it, just give me mark wrong, then just deduct the marks accordingly. But to me, the interesting part about this paper comes in the first half of it. In fact, the pure math plus the probability part. I spent most of my time doing the raw probability question, which is the nth counter. That was my last 5 minutes, and I think it was a rather interesting question. It got me thinking quite deeply. I was thinking it's a GP and whatnot, but more about that when we mark the paper. But the pure math part, I think it offered a lot of critical thinking. If you look at question 1, I think some of you may have used guess and check, and I don't blame you. I don't see a clear mathematical way to solve it, and I don't think there is one. But who knows, maybe the 10 series will have a better answer than mine. But my favorite question would have to be the application of differentiation. You will see that how I solve it will be very different from most students. It comes down to really understanding how to use your implicit differentiation and the difference between your A-level and your O-level syllabus in terms of the technique that you can apply in differentiation. Another question that was rather interesting was the fx graph, the one about the dy dx. Actually, it's differential equation. I was quite surprised. And I was a bit taken aback by the sketching of it. Even in A math, I don't really like sketching periodic graph like cosine and sine. I just find it very irritating. Therefore, I spent quite a significant portion of my time just messing around with the GC and trying to wing it to come up with an answer where I actually need the exact values, but I took the decimal and I worked backwards. And this is definitely not an excuse. I was late for the paper. It is completely my fault. If you are late for the paper, it's your fault as well. And the biggest mistake that any JC2 can make is that they forget their GC. Now for me, I'm a bit more well versed in stats in terms of the fundamental ideas, in terms of the primary ideas to get to all these different topics. And therefore, even if I don't have my GC, to be frank, if I have the older MF27, which is MF26, remember the page at the back where there's a normal distribution curve? Actually, I could have used that to solve a lot of the questions. And even binomial as well, I can use the formula, but it's not the most sustainable. And therefore today, when I realized that I left my GC here due to charging, which is a good practice, you need to do that before your A-levels. I forgot to bring it home. You need to bring it home. If not, this is going to happen to you and then you have to find the nearest school to go to. For me, I had no choice. My GC was here. I cannot go to the nearest JC, which is NYJC, and I rushed all the way here. And as far as I know, they do not compensate you back the time that you lost due to traveling. Unless it is by MRT disruption, which is on the national level, or if you're sick, according to what I read on Reddit. But if it's purely down to your mistake, you being late due to your circumstance, that is not necessarily valid, You just have to sit in for the paper and use the remaining time. And really, it's very important not to be late, because when I was late, I was perspiring, I was looking for my GC, I needed time to settle down, I needed to take my GC, set up my camera. That easily spent me like 10 minutes already. When I was doing the first few questions, I could really feel the anxiety and I was fumbling. I had to get into my rhythm. I had to really calm myself down, which would take a few more minutes. And therefore, time constraint is going to feel even worse, given that you already lost more time and now you need to have even more time to bring yourself back together. And if you compare to what I done in paper 1 I took almost 3 hours. This one I had a lot more time even though I was late. And I think it really comes down to how stats is very one direction, very rigid in terms of solving. I don't see too much creativity in that, and you can see most of the creativity came from the probability and before. And for most students, I know your concern is with P and C, and as I told my students every year, your P and C in A levels will never be a problem. As you can see in this paper, not a problem at all. One of the easier than any tutorial questions you have done in school. So personally, this paper, is it easy? For sure. Is it easiest? I wouldn't think so. And if you're asking me about what I could score in this paper, I think 90% is a fair score. I think most students wouldn't struggle to score 90%. So again, don't be late. If you're late, just calm your titties and try to do your best. Can't believe I did all this today. Seems like every video where I do a challenge, there is really indeed a challenge. And right now, I'm dying to go home and shower, wash up, look at the paper, mark the answers, and then give you my overall thoughts after marking the paper. Because who knows, maybe I scored even lower than 80%, and this could be a slap in my face. So, I'll see you later. Quick pause. I have a special announcement for the JC1, JC2 and the Sec 4 students. During this June holidays, there will be free trial classes running for the JC1 H2 Math and H2 Chemistry students. Now that school has started, some of you are already struggling to catch up, and you look at what you've seen on Reddit, a lot of people are struggling. And if you're looking to attend tuition that is not a chore, where you get to listen to stories and therefore help you understand better about many concepts and how they came about, so that when you go to the exam hall, you do not second guess yourself and you're fully confident in your H2 Math and H2 Chem, even if the paper was the easiest ever. Scan this QR code, contact me, and I'll see you there. Now, back to the video. And in case I forget, let me just record this first. These are the students that I've taken in last year for H2 Math, and these are their results. 100% distinction in the 2025 A-Level H2 Math exam. Okay, time to mark the paper. Time right now, 16 May, 9:25. I know I'm supposed to mark this yesterday night, but yesterday was just a whole mess starting from the morning. Then I had a string of classes in the afternoon. Didn't have time to really settle down and mark the paper. So today is the day after. I don't think it makes a difference in terms of how I mark the paper, but it will be not as fresh of a memory. But I think I have a good recollection of what happened yesterday, and therefore from there we can talk about the paper. But I did realize that because of how messy yesterday was, I forget to give you a raw review of what I thought about the paper. Again, I haven't marked the paper at all. And I didn't really give a score in terms of my 3 matrices. And of course, just like every other A-level paper, like I said in paper 1 as well, there is always an element in the paper that's surprising. It's not just the questions that I mentioned, but it does require some level of wittiness, some level of logic, which is what math is about. And what I'm about to say about this paper will seem a bit odd to some of you. If I compare this to paper 1, I think paper 2 is a lot easier, even though there were more weird questions. And I think part of it comes down to the fact that statistics in general is supposed to be the easier part of your syllabus. Most of you have gone through the local O-level system, and therefore you have done your E-Math. Statistics, even in E-Math, is one of the easiest thing ever. We move on to A-levels, even the permutation and combination in this paper was rather straightforward. And therefore, most students will be able to score for the statistics part, but I'm pretty confident that question 3 and question 4, the FX question and the application of differentiation question, would be the reason for why a lot of you would lose the marks. And that's why yesterday I predicted that most of us, even though they are very well versed, they are well practiced, but if they lack the level of wittiness and if they lack that level of judgment when it comes to analyzing a question very critically, those two are the questions that will cause you to lose the marks. But ultimately, even if you lost those, because of how the rest of the paper went, 90% shouldn't be an issue. So once again, I haven't marked anything. Okay, no markings at all. So right now I'm going to mark the paper. The last time I made a mistake in terms of not recording it well, I'm just going to record a few minutes to show you that I did actually mark the paper. And I don't have much time, so let's get started. This is the camera that's going to watch me mark. I don't think I have memory for all the 20 minutes I'm going to spend marking, so hopefully I should be able to finish this in time. So let's see. The thing about the marking scheme is that they don't come with marks, so I need to check very carefully. Alright, so I'm done marking the paper. Quite a lot of painful mistakes, which I'll speak about in a while. And before I review the score to you, I just realized something about the paper as I go through them, which is that you realize your A-level paper is a bit different from a brilliant paper. Just talking about the stats itself, generally, they will not define the random variable for you. That means the teacher will always ask you in school to define let X be the random variable where whatever occurred, what's the probability of success. In this case, there wasn't really a need to, but I still wrote it anyway, just to make sure it's complete. Really, I think I'm just squeezing something out to say about the stats because there's really nothing special. The one that's a bit more particular, I'll talk about it when I review my answer to you. For this paper in general, I think I'm most proud of my question 4. Because question 4, if you look at the 10-year series answer, is like what I always tell my students when I teach them H2 math. You could have done this like an O-level A-math question, you would have found DVDH, you would have found your chain rule and all that, but look at how I did it instead. I always tell my students, the only difference between your A-level and O-level is implicit differentiation. I showed them many times that it doesn't matter what's the variable you differentiate with respect to, and how do you decide which one to differentiate with respect to? It's looking for the terms that you want. And this question was a clear demonstration of that. You could see very clearly, the moment I differentiated with respect to t, the whole chain rule came out. But this is not for everybody. In fact, I only recommend this to my students that I feel are more than competent. So you could see all the list of names, all my students scored A. All of them were capable of doing that. I wouldn't say I insist, but I will always strongly recommend that you want to save time, you want to show that you are better than other students, especially when it comes to A-level, when it comes to Cambridge. I think impression matters more than anything. If you could show good explanation, you could show that you do this slightly differently, just trying to show that there is a more convenient way, and then avoiding the careless mistake, which is what most students would do in this kind of differentiation. You should get a good mark. And even if you lost marks, I mean, like, how much is this going to cost you? Maybe 2, 3? Okay, to be fair, 4 marks, so it's quite a big deal. Again, that's why I only recommend this to the best of the best students. And maybe that's why the 10-year series answer, just like last time in paper 1, I feel that it's a less than deserving of an answer. I feel it could have been better, but then catering to the masses, I think that's a better answer to write, because if not, there will be a lot of confusion. But I'm pretty sure a lot of you have learned this in school. If you have not, guess what? I just taught you. And now, for the moment you've been waiting for. Time for my score. Drum roll, please. 94%. Yay! Okay, so the question has to be where the 6% went to, right? Remember I said I was late for the paper? Guess where most of the mistakes were? In the first few questions. Question 2, vectors. They were asking for the angle between PS and PQ. I think it was PS that was wrong. I basically, instead of taking OS, I took SQ instead, which is 2, 8, 6 minus C, basically minus 11. So my whole thing was wrong. That's why I say don't be late for your paper. The moment you're late, everything is messed up, especially in the first few minutes. I didn't bother to check that, and to be honest, I was just lazy. What else? Another careless mistake is, again, in the first few questions, question 3, you can see I applied my factor formula correctly. I even cancelled out the plus to put a minus, but then when I put it into the answer, it became something else. So instead of a negative sign, I put in a plus sign. Careless mistakes everywhere. But luckily it didn't affect my part C. And the other part that I lost marks in that I could forgive myself for was question 5B. Actually, I spent the longest on that. If you watch the video where I actually tried the paper, 5B was the last question that I did, and I even did on a rough paper. And I'm pretty sure I got a correct answer in terms of the manipulation, or in terms of the idea. And if I look at the answer, I haven't had time to look at it very carefully. It seemed to suggest what I did as well, which is they did 12 choose n-1 or something like that. It should expand to become something like what I wrote on a rough paper, like this one. Right? But I guess not, and therefore it's wrong. For the rest of the stats questions, I think there was really nothing much to say. Rather simple, rather direct. Don't make careless mistakes. P and C was easy. Your scatter plot is just making sure you word it correctly. And then the binomial was another mistake, which is for part E. Now, whenever they talk about the combination of two events, you would think you need to consider the fact that what if you permutate? According to the 10-year series answer, they did not permutate. And usually I would argue otherwise, but this time I agree. But because of that permutation, that thing was wrong. So like I always tell my students, no men are the same, no women are the same, but all objects can be the same. So I guess I overthink this one and got it wrong. But apart from that, the rest of it is rather standard. You talk about your unbiased estimate, you talk about your presentation, so you must be careful about using your S square versus your sigma square. They have a different meaning. Your teacher will have reminded you 10,000s of time. In the end, this is the score I got. And for me, question 4 is really the best of the best because of question C and D. Now the variable rate is 10 pi t. How do you deal with that? You gotta find the time taken to pour the water. So that took me a while. You can see my answer, I jumped up the order a bit. I realized as I was doing, I needed something and read the next part, which is part D. I found out that I was actually doing part D and not part C. And that's when, if you saw the time lapse, you realize I stopped there for quite a while, trying to figure out how to deal with the T, how to deal with the V, then realize they're just integration. Then from there, you got the volume, you can find the time. Maybe for all of you, you're smarter than me, you figure this out. Now that we have done paper 1 and paper 2, I guess it's time for me to talk about both papers as a whole. Indeed, I do feel that paper 2 is easier than paper 1. Not necessarily because of the question set. In fact, I think it's more about the syllabus, which is just the nature of stats itself. Could have made the probability harder, like we have seen in some years where there's a spider web and all that. Actually, there's a Dalton board. I don't know if you realize, which is something I'm gonna do for my class and I'm gonna upload it on YouTube. But those questions that usually students lose mark on, I think it was really minimized. For example, the probability one, the one solving for n, they could have made it a lot more painful for me by making the story a lot longer and therefore extending the parts, but they did not. And like I said just now, the marks that you are going to lose probably is in the differentiation part, probably is in the careless mistakes. If you were like me, who is very lazy when it comes to finishing the paper, didn't check, there is a good chance that you make careless mistakes, especially when you talk about the distribution where sometimes you have to do a complement because your calculator is stupid. It does CDF for x smaller than or equals to 2 only, but if I'm not wrong, the question was looking for x bigger than 1, so you must do the complement 1 minus x smaller than or equals to 1. And as a whole, do these two papers balance out in terms of difficulty? No, there's a common belief that most students will have that if paper 1 is easy, paper 2 is going to be scarily hard. But I don't see that being the case. In fact, paper 2 was way easier. I don't know how they set the paper, I don't want to speculate, but I always tell my students, just do your best. And don't worry about the next paper. The next paper can be as hard, the next paper can be as easy, but just have more faith in your ability than having faith in the examiner. I think that will serve you a lot of good. And therefore, if I judge this whole entire 2 episodes where I done paper 1 and paper 2, is this really one of the easiest A-level H2 math paper out there? I don't want to say yes for sure, but I lean very strongly towards it. And I thought this paper was going to be uneventful because I already have my 10-year series. What could go wrong, right? But everything went wrong. And therefore, the lesson of this whole video is don't be late. If you're late, you can see right here. A lot of my careless mistakes were in the first 3 to 4 questions. Don't be like me. But once you settle down, the rest of the questions should get into a rhythm. Furthermore, the rest of the questions, especially in paper 2, is statistics, shouldn't give you too much of an issue. So again, if you like my video, follow me on TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube where I do more challenges like this because ultimately, I'm on my way to 10,000 followers. And don't forget, I haven't started on chemistry. That is going to be very eventful as well. So nothing else. This is Yao from Vantage Tutor, a class above the rest. Take care.